Hello, people of Connecticut and America. I put a link to it. There's a fire in Connecticut. There was a recent fire that was a demonstration and a confirmation of roles within Inspector Mike with various fire departments, intercities involved with untimely deaths and murders, and more with a principal child defenders campus. And there was one when I was a principal there. A Mr. Murphy. He was only nice to me, but there are recorded proofs that he was lied to about me, including his daughter, who I never knew he had a daughter when I was in that school. But he has a daughter named Erin Murphy, who's one of the ones involved with a whole bunch of people that work with Hartford Courts, and New Britain Superior Court, and with other courts, and Connecticut's District Court, which are involved with World Trade Center predicate acts and other natures of organized crime and fake conversations with little kids with police. There are police forms that are psychiatrists who speak on logic and reason, who have been self-valued roles with stacking fake conversations and their delusions at the same time, which is also relative because they pretend not to understand people. Where and how readings of statutes originally instill criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw are manifest involvements. Increasingly, people at I've never seen a tomorrow at the Town Line Drive shopping center. Increasingly, people tied to a Joe Demaro, and the difference between the ones in Rocky Hill and Weathersfield are involved with proven child abusers, leaders of kids first forced, and their rules with home break-ins, and with people at the corners of, even if they're unmarked police forms, they have roles with acting professors at corners of streets on Church Street in Old Weathersfield with WTNH, also corners of streets along roads and routes like 175 and its conjunctions and Route 3 and its conjunctions. People that were raised into intelligence, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw identity theft, fraud, slanders, roles relative to, because they have black, KKK, Confederate flag theme, Latino theme, and male and female, and other differences of interbranch names used where they're forging and switching names and preventing me writing since I was a kid. They've been planting fake conversations with me and stories with the news companies sickly distinctly. And then they pretend to have that, they influence them to pretend that's not realized. On a mass scale, people that speak for the law pretend that others need to have faith in them as a method of showing them to pretend not to realize that they're hiding abridgments of the Constitution and they're forcing exploitation of them. /S. Sandy Hook is also increasingly involved. So I didn't know, but I sensed it because of the Mr. Murphy's involvements with the confessions of a Rick Baglione, who sought me out as a stranger, and then someone who barely knew him as an adult to make confessions about a Brendan Leahy and his father, who apparently also is named Brendan Leahy. They attached me to fake conversations with them in databases at Hartford Hospital, a whole bunch of people tied to them with judges and prosecutors personally and professionally involved with them. Also with the ones with wire crimes on my street, ones that don't even live here anymore too. People with the name D. Simone and Cololo are involved with various intercities police departments through time. And with the Weathersfield police that are switching names and forging names and preventing writing so they also attached me and others since we were kids to fake conversations and change communications with everyone around us, including our families, on a mass scale. Because this is a breaching method that uses self-valued roles with criminal insidiousness natures of positive treatments and negative treatments as collusions, keeping other things, others or ourselves blamed for things that nature itself is demonstrating, and our founders, what they actually communicated. They demonstrated for us to blame on the breaching method, to have a clear understanding of the use of those crazy laws that everyone was forced to be roles with, So everyone was forced to be uses of those crazy laws, which were three ways manifest as value, as torture, tortures, extortion, grouped in all of everyone, and slavery. Fact, cheaping nature, therefore physically of everyone, sickly distinctly too, because this breaching method used sickly, how sickly non-distinctly is left out by suits and ties, counters to them, exceptions, and or their colonial equivalents, because this came from before colonial times. This just reminds. We're supposed to get the Constitution unabridged and value Marbury versus Madison properly. How could you value Marbury versus Madison properly if you have other communicate for our founders? I read that we're supposed to describe our founders as those behind James Madison and his plan. And then they went and got George Washington to agree to help them and to use that plan. See, people use truths as lies, and as the breaching method knew they would. This breaching method had perfected individuals, groups, and everyone would hurt everyone with their syntax, with their collusion, blaming other things other than themselves for what was causing and keeping the worst things against everyone. And nature's demonstrations against everyone that no one was prevented, equality of fact, human nature necessary to overcome. Because on a mass scale, they pretend not to understand people as collusions with people sticking fake things in the database at each campus we went to. So there are family members of educators of Ray Reynolds and people that next to the campus he went in kindergarten and next to his house, who are increasingly involved with state police from Vermont and from Connecticut and Rhode Island and other countries, people involved with other countries and borders roles since they were kids, all along Route 175 and Route 3 and its conjunctions. Roles of my neighbors with the Wethersfield police. Sometimes it's them and sometimes it's them, putting fake transcripts and fake conversations, fake ties to me with a whole bunch of people tied to them I don't know the names of that know my name, involved with violence too. And so when people speak about it, they're pretending they want privacy. That's why we have judges and prosecutors involved criminally foreign influence with the FBI, switching and forging names with male and female judges, with KKK, black theme, Confederate flag theme, Latino theme, Italian. And there are other differences, male, women. That's also used remotely, criminally foreign influence. Foreign and domestic medical families, including military, criminally foreign influence uses of campuses, including medical and fire campuses at the same time, has something to do with their roles with planting evidence on all sides of my house with those names as is recorded. But these are with the police that are refusing to identify themselves legitimately with the courts at the same time. And since I was a kid, they have been stacking arrays of fake police reports as collusions with overt criminal enterprises and private ones in a whole bunch of other countries at the same time, and the psychopaths who know my name. In other words, they have patients and criminals and criminal groups and their doctors and judges associated with them. It's concentrated with probate judges, where they have them right at the location, where they force mental evaluations. Since founding, people have needed to raise their voice because everyone was a coward, fact-cheating nature-wise, black pupils. So in other words, I shouldn't have to beg to get them onto paper. Please, Chris Murphy, do what's right, because there's that Mr. Murphy with a Kevin Harris involved with predicate acts, identity thefts, and frauds as federal evidence is crimes too, with people that know my name, I don't know their name, at Central Connecticut State University, and next to it, and on my street involved with wire crimes with them, and at campuses I went, putting with predicate acts involved with them, identity theft, fraud, slander, in between them. And the difference of that is also exploited. They also have roles with use of the word immature, and use of the word psychedelics because of their roles with the unmarked police forms and with all the elements associated with those spots next to the state capitol, and how they look at what they say dishonestly, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions wrong, because these are people involved with the World Trade Center attack. So, and Wethersfield Pizza has wire crimes of the Wethersfield police too, that they're refusing to get on paper because they put me in fake conversations with a Steven Stocco consciously. And I believe a Maria Stocco or a Maria Vizino. I don't know if they're married. I don't remember. I'm not going to repeat what I heard about them. Just like they were been repeating fake things about me and tried to make up fake exceptions too. It has something to do with their roles with the Central Connecticut State University and the Britain Connecticut intelligence that has been planting predicate acts of fake ties and fake natures of ties between students that weren't in the classes of each other and ones that are in the classes of each other. That's all. Also, that difference is exploited relative to where and how we can discern names on all sides of criminal and civil cases, news in the court's names, planting the same sequence shifts and self-valuing them with their logic. So it has something to do with a Joshua Stryker and 3 spots at the end of the Burlington Turnpike. People that use my name, people that lied to my family about me, where police forms and courts use the right to lie where they don't have the right to lie. It's names on off the campuses. UConn increasingly has people with the name Violet and with the name Violet, and other countries like Germany, Germans against Germans, and these are people with the Koreans, also with people with the name Nick LaPera. I don't know Nick LaPera and his brothers. I think that's his name. They tried to make fake exceptions. And then they had a Jonathan Maiano. I never met Jonathan Maiano. I never knew that man. Intercities, they have roles with intelligence families. Distinctly, non-distinctly, with town lines too, the difference of that. This is where and how they have Wethersfield police involved with digital crimes, all sides of criminal and civil cases, collusions, also with religious spots and names associated with Joshua Schumack and his mother on Facebook page of Wethersfield Police with child offenders, sexual and medical, and into religious spots. There's a Devane family who's recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with people with wire crimes on my street with the police that are also on Fox Connecticut News, and next to WFSB involved with predicate acts also with WTNH sources at corners of streets, and WFSB faked conversations with me. These are also people with the various intercities police departments and their roles with different countries like Russians, which also presents hyper evidential. Because these are people that fake conversations with people on a mass scale, and judges also speaking fake things in records, and while their delusions raw, and with medical families foreign and domestic forging each other's names, and the Americans forging the foreign names because of uses of our identity in the past. These are people that have put me in fake conversations with themselves, and they had WFSB do this at the same time, and they had interbranch names do it at the same time. It has something to do with neighbors of a Jonathan Maiano that I don't know the names of. They know my name, and they've been roles with acting and planting behind people's backs that they don't even know, pretended fake proofs that they know them. Like with a Joshua Julian too. Joshua Julian's one of the ones on Facebook of the principal child abuser who was one of the ones who forced that. And he was by the people at Hartford Hospital. But I didn't know they were involved. In other words, these are Mark Violet, and he has a brother, Mike Violet, and they have neighbors also that they told lies to about me. Has something to do with their roads, and that's with the Wethersfield police chiefs retired with the same house, involved with /S, involved with sequence shifts with them. People from other areas planting evidences at other people's houses with people in their areas that are involved with intelligence families and overt criminal enterprises and private ones at the same time. This uses more remotely where people speak about difference, like black and white, or like what really and why really. There's prejudice and racism because the breaching method designed the suburbs criminally foreign, tactically denatured, involved with torture, extortion, and slavery. The breaching method designed that to appear debatable, and it maintains roles with that because other is communicated by nature itself and by the archaeological evidences, like how the suburbs are manifest the same way, basically, even though since before our founders were born. And people speak about like means being resources being money, still leaving out the breaching methods roles with that. Leaving out the breaching methods roles with that against countries grouped too, all groupings, no matter which one they are, how powerful they are together. This breaching method knew there'd be locations, areas, and states that couldn't defend the fact, cheap nature, quality, styles, aspect, nature, and afford simultaneously defenses from itself. That which is not names A through Z, but it plays them. And played them sustained. Identities of integrity, defenses, law, descriptions, sciences, descriptions, defenses. Self-value that can't defend itself and afford to be, let alone to protract. Convictions in nature with short words properly regarding the Constitution's original abridgments and regarding these subjects overall forced by individuals to begin with, because the people, the only individuals as leaders, they're playing shell games, forcing debate about overall subjects so they can leave out the predicate acts with facts, because they're a certain type of victim / hyper victim that came through campuses A through Z and the differences of them. The best ones are the worst. Collusion with uses of different self-value. Can't defend it. We are systems tactically ulterior from the one that is hypernative. So I don't know the name with people named Sharkey. And they've been planting evidences, people tied to them at the spots next to the state capitol. And as people between the campuses that have been putting fake ties between people that wouldn't even have the same campuses together. We never even saw each other around campuses. They made a couple of quick instances of acceptance. Like, I don't know who Eric Olson and Matt Olson are. The only reason I remember their names, they were brought up with confessions on Facebook by people tied to them and people involved with whiting forensics and state police families, interstates, involved further with the FBI and with courts, family members, and overt criminal enterprises and private ones, putting fake things in databases with my teachers, with their personal and professional connections to them, making fake instances, walking by me, having other people see it, and then pretending I know them. And so people will defend, and people ignore where and how we have answers that could have stopped a whole bunch of crimes. There are proofs that this might be tied to that, because these are people involved with a whole bunch of different countries, involved with the identity difference racket, originally installed. That's why I can't afford to have discerned how we're supposed to describe our founders as those behind James Madison and his plan, not to allow in other words, someone could make a in other words, Native Americans were our founders, but they were 1/3 of our founders. If we're honest, 1/3 is also the people who are not Native Americans that were forced to be founders. And 1/3 is those is James Madison and those founders behind him, who included president / chief, because not A through Z is free yet, and who included unabridged using his plan. Everyone had to hide their motivations for roles with it, for roles even with the Declaration of Independence and even with the Constitutional Convention, because of the roles had already been sustained with the entrenched breaching method laws. And the difference between that overt criminal enterprises, private ones, the sum values like economies. narratives and natures, leaving out exceptions, and exception nature as nature shows us to. Ugh. So they have wire crime acts and methods with Weathersfield Police and other and forensics names. Whiting Forensics has roles with the Joshua Julian on Facebook pages, and they pretend things to be to perceive hate and stuff like that when people have rude language or whatever on Facebook and social media because they're covering up sequence shifts. They're covering up collusions with their differences and they're involved with readings of statutes, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw. This breaching method showed them they need to hide already having done such. Certain type of victim / hyper victim, this needs to nature itself shows they need to respond to what employed black, white, and fake justice pretending other, fake integrity pretending other, fake care for economics, pretending other as collusion, with a collusion part, then that's going to have to pretend it's about liberty, because and that freedom is already secured. We don't have freedom of speech. We have equality of fact. Human nature as collusions used to measure and maintain self-value roles with it, or that person is sensed through our own. So it has something to do with a whole bunch of people tied to Whiting Forensics and state police roles with diving and all natures of investigations, investigators in crime scenes, including body dumping spots, increase in time use / estimate as people involved with predicate acts with facts, federal evidences, crimes, involved with Whiting Forensics, increasingly with the same house involved with wire crimes / S involved with wire crimes with the police, and lying about what they think when people mention such, and with the names involved with gangs and people from other countries on off the town offices and election spots who also have roles with federal crimes on my street with the same house. So in other words, they're preventing me they're trying to make violence too, so they could lie about the outcome and lie and pretend they didn't realize all kinds of roles with all kinds of falsified police reports and wire crime acts and methods where they fake the whole transcripts. They also had the news pretend conversations with me as a kid. And the kids who did go down to the police station to have conversations with them, not legitimately, they had roles with overt criminal enterprises, private and then. And they weren't even in classes with me. And when they tried to make fake exceptions too, including with a summer school class, increasingly involved with the World Trade Center attack through other natures of federal evidences, crimes and wire crimes and home break-ins and use / S of them involved. Also with the fire departments and people with shipping tied to a Joshua Stryker and this Joshua Julian who don't know me, and they've been slandering me with people from my area since I was a kid, and they've been slandering them too. These are people incapable of speaking about one identity honestly. These are people that this breaching method makes people have conversations back and forth where people are gonna dishonestly pretend care or hate, even while they're being honest. They're using other people's information, and the motivations for it is more importantly used because, like for example, how they have a whole bunch of people from Korea and Russia involved with people in my grammar school that put predicate acts with facts from other classrooms with their intelligence families. There are intelligence families and people tied to mayors since I was a kid who have roles with this game, with putting fake things in databases, and then people are going to go to the next campus and they're doing the same things there. And this has relativity to where and to how. So long we have had black people's white survivors. These are black KKK themed, Confederate flag themed, involved with principals and their family members, putting fake things in databases where they're calling people when they're calling people to the offices too, they're leaving out. In other words, if you just try to pay attention, there's no obligations for you to do homework. When there are more obligations, more to address the Predicate acts with facts method. And we're going to have to learn to discern it this way. I'm not even a lawyer. And the police forms, again, they're recorded originally and still collusion with the breaching method, the court switching and forging names with them, sequences. And these people have their roles with the names at the World Trade Center the day of the attack, at spots next to it, including one of those spots being the Ninth Circuit Court, next to the World Trade Center towers. Both sides in that case and the court itself changed the date of legal papers from inside the court. And they self-valued sequence shifts with names on both sides of that case and the news involved before that with Hartford courts, FBI, state police, foreign and domestic military at West Hartford locations together planting evidences. And I was involved with no case. In any investigation, investigators against me, nor was there all different natures of investigators. Even people that run the prisons at the same time involved with investigators at the Department of Children and Families, the Hartford courts recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, also influencing a Dean Judd and his family members to roles with predicate acts on the campuses and off the campuses and between them. And the difference of that is used also, where they're switching names and forging names and pretending not to understand people online. And they're lying about their motivations of it for it, including regarding how it'll make too many lawsuits or it costs too much money. They're leaving out exception nature. They're leaving out the value of the unabridged and its conjunction to the grounding of Marbury versus Madison. Unabridged. How could they appreciate Marbury versus Madison properly when they have other communicated for James Madison and our founders behind him and his plan, and that which being the one that George Washington agreed to use? And we're supposed to be honest about his about his extortion, because that's what forced the counter extortion of the other founders, and what from inside of more than 13 colonies, tortured, extorted, and enslaved, fact-achieving nature-wise, A through Z, for their differences. The difference between male and female, as imposed by this breaching method, that was measured and maintained. What it caused originally and still blamed on other things, others herself. Can't have. And we have types of victims advocates, inclusions with the differences rackets. Inclusions with use/s of names on all sides of criminal and civil cases in the courts at the same time, and the people at and next to their state offices, state judicial branch offices of Connecticut and the state corrections offices of Connecticut. Business and homes, and the difference of that is also used. And military. These are ones foreign and domestic involved with differences brackets. So you have black voices, and you have quote black voices and quote white voices that can't be honest about their own treatments of those colors and identity, their own names, and afford to discern the revelations and why and how we have black pupils, whites of eyes. Can't have a sane debate regarding if it would be theoretical. For example, in other words, if it would be plausible that the famous quote, "Don't shoot until you see the whites of eyes," even if that was true, it is plausible that this is also ciphered to be deciphered. And it's written in how slavery was still entrenched, sickly, distinctly, northern colonies, southern colonies, and how that sickly, non-distinctly was against everyone. But that, instead of being valued positively, roles with passions and emotions, blaming other things, others themselves for the cause of slavery and cause of roles with it. And then people want to speak about black and white and entertain whether you're black or white. You're a predator. So they have some black KKK themed involved with principals, conversations with leaders of kids at each campus I went to. And further, with a principal being child offender proven that they first forced had something to do with the intelligence with the schools. More people with the intelligence at the schools involved with medical family, a whole bunch of people that were involved with Harvard Hospital's campus involved with medicines crimes, mail and wire crimes, on and off campuses, and that one, intercities, involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders. Rick Cianfaglione is one of the ones involved with wire crimes on my street with Hartford Police, New Rock Hill Police, and retired Weathersfield Police with the same house with them. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Other natures of organized crime with them on off Hartford Hospital and their roles with unmarked police forms, interstates, their roles with state police families, criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions, raw. Here! Let's get them on paper, one name and sequence. Please, WFSB, get me out for paid conversations with you and about the World Trade Center attack. New York City, they have Gail King is recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed by Connecticut's WFSB sources and cells involved with identity theft, fraud, slander with some black KKK Confederate flag themed interstates and borders counters and attackers roles. They have roles with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. So let's get them on name and paper because the people associated with them, like a Gary Sasso and his neighbors, and his roles with houses and locations on the site next to Central Connecticut State University, used criminally foreign influence, tactically delusions raw, as people involved with planting evidences on and off my campuses, intercities, hoping people with the intelligence at Central Connecticut State University, like a Justin Kovinskis and a Mark Violet, have roles with UConn and Trinity College, and names next to Central Connecticut State University, where they have black themed, Latino themed, KKK themed area, and the difference between that, and all collusions with each other, Latino themed, fake conversations with police as their family members, collusions with use of location /S, criminally foreign influence, uses of pretended care for the unmarked police forms. That is really just to have them state collusion /S, and with notions regarding people pretending they could speak for economies. You guys making math evaluated as not, as A through Z. The names of the people of the sciences are being and have been used remotely. Forgiveness /hyper forgiveness is needed, so we don't, with needed blame and convictions, we don't leave out the breaching method. Changes everything. And all the fake, the evidence is rackets. And the difference between the courts and the police forms or the people tied to them. Sandy Hook campuses, including a prison campus, has roles with proven child offenders, leaders, and kids by making up things about people who caught them without recorded, and by roles replacing what's recorded at crime scenes, and with the prisons used for torture, extortion, slavery methods. Note the World Trade Center's roles with pretending we wanted self-value torture. And they're just faking the conversations. No one's checking. Fear God for the uses of the databases. The 10. See the fire?